There is a lot of mediumship content on the internet. Most of it isn't mediumship. Hi, I'm Amy Lynn, and this is Being Crone. Whether you've sat for a reading before or never come close to one, this video has something for you. Up front and for the record, I did not wake up one day and declare, I shall become a medium. This unfolded over time through experience, paying attention, and being willing to question both my own assumptions and other people's. This video isn't about convincing you of anything. My intention is to validate some of what you might already feel, bring new insight where I can, and leave you with something useful, whether that's comfort, curiosity, or maybe just a better question than the one you showed up here with. Okay, let's talk about something you've probably noticed. There's a significant amount of mediumship content on social media right now. Reels, TikToks, Instagram posts, mediums reading on live stream, big moments of recognition, lots of tears and gasps, and some of it is genuine. But a lot of what gets the most views is what I'd call fluff and stuff. Comforting words, vague impressions, things that feel meaningful, maybe, but don't actually establish who is present or demonstrate that a real connection is being made. It performs well. It doesn't necessarily prove anything. There's also a terminology problem I see. We see the phrase psychic medium everywhere, and technically there is truth in it. You may have heard not all psychics are mediums, but all mediums are psychic. The capacity is related, but psychic work and mediumship are two different services. Psychic work looks at you, your patterns, your life, what might be ahead. Mediumship is connecting with the energy, the essence of a person who has died. And when those two things get bundled all together without making the distinction clear, you don't always know what you're actually getting from a reading. I call myself an evidential medium, not to suggest I'm doing something better than anyone else, but because the word evidential names what I'm after. Specific, recognizable information that could only come from your person, not a warm platitude wrapped around a question. So let's start with the headline. Mediumship, as I experience it, isn't supernatural. It's natural. We often call things like this paranormal, as if they exist outside of what's normal. I think that word is a part of the problem. It puts a fence around a category of experience and labels it other, weird, suspect, before we've even looked at it properly. To me, mediumship is receiving information from a conscious energy we refer to as spirit, not through ordinary sight, sound, touch, taste, or smell, but through another kind of awareness. Because we sense energy too, and that isn't always easy to explain. Think about a few ordinary things. The room where two people just argued, you felt that. The friend who calls the moment you thought of them, or the person you trusted or didn't before they said a word. We don't call any of that paranormal. We call it knowing, a vibe, a gut instinct. And most of the time, we treat it as perfectly normal data. So when I say mediumship is natural, I mean exactly that, just further along the same spectrum. You can have mediumistic experiences or be open to them, no matter what your belief system is. A lot of us hold mixed and evolving beliefs anyways. I contain multitudes myself. I like an old idea that the brain might not be a producer of consciousness as much as a filter. a reducing valve. It lets in just enough awareness for you to get through the day. Grocery list, card keys, text messages. Don't walk out into traffic. Mediumship is what can happen when that filter loosens a little. Mediums aren't leaving their body. They're not losing their mind. They're just letting a little more of a broader reality through. And honestly, you are probably doing this to some degree too. You might be doing it right now. I'm just more aware of it. Something I learned in my own development that I find genuinely interesting. When researchers look at mediumistic states through EEGs, they find measurable changes in brain activity. No, that doesn't prove everything, and it doesn't explain the whole mystery. Science, is adorable that way. But it does suggest that mediumship involves a real shift in awareness. Not just imagination, not just wishful thinking. Something changes. The brain reflects it, and I find that fascinating. Charlie Kelly is the medium and tutor whose work has been most useful to me. If developing your own awareness is something you're curious about, his channel is in the description. So, how does this actually show up in practice? Well, it's subtle. A sensation in my body, a quick image, a phrase that drops in, maybe a personality impression, or a sense of a memory that isn't mine. It has the texture and intimacy of a real memory, but I know it doesn't belong to my life. Mediumship doesn't feel cinematic. It often doesn't feel like much is happening at all. A thought arrives, random, without context, and then my brain does what brains do. It translates. It runs the information through my personal wiring and says, okay, the closest thing I got for this is this image, this smell, this phrase, this little scene. I follow the thread and turn it into words quickly enough so it can be useful to you. It's usually whispered level subtle. It's not fireworks, rarely, and I have no context around any of it. What I do have is that feeling of, if I don't say this out loud, it's not going to leave me alone. So I say it. Mediumship is less like seeing ghosts and more like being honest about the unusual but real ways information shows up. And then being willing to speak it out loud, which is its own skill entirely. Here's something people often get wrong about mediumship, including people who've had readings. Most expect a medium to describe what someone looked like and talk about how they died a lot, as if appearance or cause of death is what mattered most. That is genuinely the least useful information I can give you. Sometimes those things do show up, but it isn't what made them. What I'm going for is who they were, their character, what drove them, what they loved, and what they couldn't stand. The specific particular texture of your person, not a physical description that could fit half the people probably on your street. Anyone can say, I sense an older man and he loves you. That's not evidence of anything. But when I offer, I'm aware of a man and you'd understand why he's showing me a truck, and you go still for a moment because your grandfather drove a truck every single day for 30 years, that's evidence. That's the whole point. I know that's a simple example, but simple works here. When information comes in, I don't embellish. I don't fill in the blanks. My brain wants to. Brains are storytelling machines that automatically connect dots and build scenes. I've learned to catch that. and stop it as best I can. If I receive an image of a lake, I say, you'd understand water or a lake. I do not say, he loved to fish, because I didn't receive fishing. If I received a lake, my job is to report the lake and let you tell me yes or no. This is how a reading builds. I speak what I receive in pieces, and each time you say yes, I go further. Each yes is a confirmation. Each yes is another thread. So it might sound something like this. I'm aware of a man. You understand why he shows me a truck. Yes. There's something about the outdoors or land. He's showing me this with some feeling of pride. Yes. He's giving me a month. April feels significant. And we keep going. That is how evidence builds, piece by piece. Not one big declaration, a series of specific, recognizable things that add up to your person and no one else. What comes out of my mouth tends to sound like you'd understand this, or you'd remember this, or I'm aware of, because that's the honest shape of it. I'm not declaring, I'm handing something to you and asking if it fits, while I'm being honest about all this. Mediumship is not a passive party trick. And the personal development that goes into doing it responsibly is ongoing. Finding someone who takes that seriously is not a small thing. People ask me versions of this all the time, so let me just be direct about what this isn't. Mediumship is not fortune telling. I'm not here to tell you when something will happen, whether you'll get the job or what your future holds. That's a different conversation. Mediumship is not mind reading. I'm not inside your head. And genuinely, I don't want to be. Your inner monologue is yours. Mediumship is not a replacement for therapy, medical care, or any professional support that deals with your life. If you're struggling, please get that support. A reading is not a substitute, and mediumship is specifically about connecting with someone who has died. That's the lane. That's my lane. Not finding out when you'll meet your next partner, or if that new job will be offered to you, or I don't know what your ex is thinking right now. If you want that kind of reading, there are psychic readers who work in that territory, and they do it really well. It's just not what I do. One more thing. Mediumship is not about handing your power over to me or to anyone. I'm here to report what I receive as clearly and as honestly as I can. And then you decide what to do with it. That part is always yours. People sometimes ask if I have a big ritual before a reading, sage, chanting, spin 3 times on my head. Nope, here's mine. I make the effort to live my life in a way that keeps me clear, keeps my side of the street clean. That's the whole ritual. My mediumship development, to me, isn't separate from my personal development. I don't step into some special medium persona and leave me at the door. Being grounded isn't something I put on before a sitting. It's something I try to maintain in general. And let me be clear, I'm not talking about perfection. I'm not perfect, but I do value progress. I value being a little better, a little clearer, a little more responsible with myself each and every day. That matters to me. And I want to name something directly because I don't hear people talk about it enough. During a reading, I'm actively setting myself aside. That might sound a little dramatic, but what it means in practice is this. My opinions, my interpretations, my personal history, my emotional reactions, I am working to set all of that aside so it doesn't contaminate what's coming through. My job is to get out of the way and be a clear connection between your person, the communicator, and you. If I receive an image, I report it. I don't decide what it means. If a word drops in, I'm going to say the word, even when I don't understand it, because I am not supposed to understand it. You are. One more thing about how I work that might surprise you. If I'm doing my job, I will only read for you once. One reading, 30 minutes, that's enough. Because the point of a reading isn't to build a dependency on me or on mediumship. It's to offer evidence of the continuity of life, to give you something real, specific, and recognizable. Something that says your person, their presence, this communication happened. Once that's been done well, it's been done. You walk away with something real. You don't need me on retainer. My job is to be as clear, honest, and present as I can, and to report what I receive without adding anything into it. If I had to say in one breath, mediumship is natural because we have senses beyond the standard 5. We sense energy. We live in fields of connection, and we can learn to tune into that, especially when it comes to the people we've lost. It's evidential. You know what that means now. It's a collaboration between you, me, and the one showing up to communicate. It's not mind reading, it's not fortune telling, and it's not a way to hand your decisions off to someone else. And it's not something you have to abandon your critical thinking to explore. It's ordinary and extraordinary at the same time. And somehow that makes it more remarkable, not less. If something here landed, let me know in the comments. I am going to read them. If you're thinking about booking a reading with me or with anyone, I have another video called Being a Sitter. I'd watch that one next. Mediumship at its heart is about the continuity of life beyond physical death. The thread does not break just because the body does. And sometimes, if we learn to listen a little differently, we can feel that for ourselves. So, if you'd like to connect with me directly, you can find me at mediumamylynn.com. Know yourself, own your knowing, trust your good work. That's the whole spell.